Hi friends, it's Christopher Holder, and today I have a very special sort of one-off video for you. Today's video is not going to be faith focused as they normally are. Today is actually going to be a sports focus video, which no, I am not changing my direction in any way. But we're in the middle of FIFA World Cup. In fact, we're in the knockout stages right now, or knockout rounds, the brackets, whatever you want to call them. And I've been watching a lot of soccer. And I have some issues with this sport. Now, some of you may be wondering why. Why am I watching soccer? In fact, my wife and several of my friends have been making fun of me because of the amount of soccer that I've been watching. Oh, and I don't want to leave anybody out. Yes, I know it's called football, which is the one thing about this sport that does make sense to me. But I've been watching a lot for two main reasons. I've kind of gotten into this whole World Cup thing. And I've got to admit, the first reason is Ted Lasso. If you've never heard of Ted Lasso, it is a comedy and it's about soccer. And so when it was recommended to me up front, I thought, why would I watch that? I don't know anything about soccer. I'm not interested in soccer. And I was told it was really, really funny and that I just needed to watch it. So I did. Now, as a minister, I do not recommend it because there's a lot of adult content, a lot of language. But as a guy, it's pretty darn funny. Funny enough to spark my interest mildly into, investigating a little bit about soccer. Well, the other reason, and the main reason I'm watching so many matches, is that I have an international team, and many of my team members are big soccer fans. In fact, one of them lives in a country that's still in the tournament. So it's one of those things where it was like, I'm going to watch some, a match or two here or there. The U.S. is in it, so, I can root for them. But I kind of went down the list and thought about it much in the way that I think of March Madness. I just, kind of pick teams not based on whether or not they're good, because I don't know anything about them, right? And so I've been rooting for those teams, and it's a good way, just another way for me to connect with my teammates and give us something to talk about. In fact, even outside of work, we've been, in text groups and chatting and things like that, and cheering on, rooting for different teams and stuff like that. And so it's really been a good thing for us as a team. Now then, the reason for this video. There is a lot, I've come to the conclusion, that is wrong with this sport. And if you're from FIFA and you're watching this video, it could happen. Just know that I'm here for you. I'm here for everyone. But if you would like my help in fixing soccer, I am available for a consulting fee, of course. But what I'm going to share with you today are the top 10, not the only, but the top 10 things that need to be fixed with the sport of soccer or football. Are you ready? Well, here we go. Number 10. It's the use of terminology that only people from Europe understand. What do I mean by that? Okay, look, guys. It's not a pitch. It's a field. It's a field. It is a soccer field. But no, you gotta be special. You gotta call it a pitch. What are some of the other really odd ones? There's kit. What is kit? I think it's the uniform. I think it might be all of the equipment involved, which is the uniform and a ball. I don't know. But kit doesn't make sense. It's a uniform, okay? And the other real big one that I struggle with is boots. This may seem small to some of you, but boots, I'm from Texas. They're a type of shoe, okay? And what they wear are not boots, they're cleats. So either call them soccer shoes or soccer cleats. But yeah, it's all over the place. Half the time I'm listening to these announcers, the play callers or whatever, as I'm watching a match, and I don't even know what they're talking about. It's like you have to learn a new language. But if you would use common language that everybody understands and can translate directly into their native tongue, I think it would eliminate a lot of confusion. That's number 10. Number 9, the scoring system in the group play. Now, I appreciate how this is set up. You've got the group play, groups of 4. I don't know how they're placed in those groups. I was told that this year they tried to do a better job of evening out the good teams or spreading out the good teams. But you've got group play, groups of 4, and this year, for the first time, we've had the largest number of groups. This is the biggest World Cup in history because of the way they expanded it, which I think is cool. Trying to get more countries involved, trying to gain popularity for the sport, which it is the most popular sport, by the way, in all of the world. Not so much in the US, but it's gaining. We're having some fun with it. But the scoring system in the group play before you go to the brackets, it's a bracket of 32, just like March Madness starts out. And so what happens is each team plays each other team in their group. And if you win, you get 3 points. If you tie, you still get a point. Now, ties, I do not dig ties. Ties are celebrations of mediocrity. Ties are what leads to participation trophies, okay? A win is a point and everything else is nothing, okay? So that's just broken, all right? I know you want to make people feel good, maybe. I really don't understand it, and neither does anyone else that I've spoken to, even those that understand the sport in general. Number 8, simplify the rules. Okay. Let me explain what I mean. I'm watching a match, and the announcer says it's offside. That's the call on the field because it's not a pitch. And so, I'm new. I'm like, okay, so what constitutes offside? So I asked Gemini, and Gemini spends like 5 minutes explaining the conditions that must be met for a player to be offsides, but then another 5 minutes explaining the 10 caveats that can negate the offsides. It's bizarre. And the offsides, by the way, is a garbage penalty, as is, where I have seen numerous replays where the guy was offside by literally a toe. Like if he wore a smaller shoe or cleat, not boot, then he wouldn't have been offsides. But that's just sort of a side note. The rules themselves are they're bizarre in many cases. And after the 10-minute explanation from Gemini, I'm listening to the game while I'm listening to Gemini speak, and come to find out, it turns out that the announcers were actually wrong. That wasn't the call on the field. It was something completely different. And of course, the play had moved on. I had to catch up on that. That was like a 15-minute explanation. Just simplify the rules a little bit because, the players don't even seem to understand sometimes what's going on. Number 7, you've got to do one of 2 things because this sport can be incredibly boring. Now, I'm not talking about increasing the scores, okay? 2-0 is a perfectly fine score if you're watching hockey, where there is constantly action, where things are always happening. So low scoring sports aren't a big deal, but the problem is that there's these extended lulls in the match. That's another one, by the way. It's a game. I'll give you a match because other sports use it, but whatever. But there's these extended lulls, and you see players just kind of standing around. Most of the action takes place in like a 5 to 15 minute time frame, and the game itself is 90 minutes. Actually, it's always more than 90 minutes, but we'll come back to that. So what you could do here to increase the action is either reduce the time of the game to like 2 15-minute periods or something like that, to drastically reduce the time, or shrink the size of the field. Force the players in closer so that they're forced to engage more often. Everybody gets so excited when 2 players come together and are kind of duking it out for 2 seconds because that's so few and far between. Those moments just don't happen very often. So if you reduce the size of the field, force the players in closer, and I'm not talking about massive size reduction, 10% maybe, or shorten the game. Number 6, and some of you are going to say that this should be much higher on the list, but number 6 is there should be an automatic ejection for flopping. I have never seen so much. I mean, they flop in the NBA. They fake injuries in the NFL. This is not an uncommon thing. But good grief, these guys don't even get touched. Somebody can sneeze in their direction and they fall down on the ground, grabbing their ankle almost every single time, like they're dying. And it wastes time. It makes the game more boring. It makes it, it's annoying, so annoying. I mean, the slightest little contact. And look, I've seen some of the contact where people have said, oh, come on, man, get over. Look, shin to shin contact hurts. I know, I've experienced that. Some of the things, the cleats, scraping across, I get that. I mean, they're still over dramatic. I mean, there should be an award in this sport for the biggest drama queen. It's ridiculous. Automatically eject anyone who is caught flopping. All right, where are we? Number 5. Number 5. And I could definitely argue that number 6 could have gone above this one, but you've got 2 halves, and then you've got this doofy thing called a hydration break. That's basically whenever the referee feels like calling it. Maybe when he's thirsty. I don't know. Just change it. Just have 4 quarters like any other sport would that has a break in the middle of a half. It just doesn't make sense. I understand this is new and FIFA's learning. So hopefully this is one that they'll rectify without my assistance. But again, I am available because I do also have ideas on how to implement these things. So quarters instead of halves, then you don't have some randomly or seemingly randomly called hydration break in the middle. And guys are running off the field to grab bottles of, drinks when there's a break in play anyway. So it doesn't even make sense calling it that. All right, number 4. Now we're getting into some of the ones that I have the biggest beefs with in this sport. Number 4, stop the clock when play stops like any other sport would do. No. You keep the clock going when there's a stoppage in play, and then some Joe Schmo on the sideline decides, I think at the end of this half, we're going to tack on 7 minutes. That feels about right. Okay, first of all, I've already talked to, my friend that's a soccer super fan, and he agreed that it actually allows for cheating, because think about it. Ooh, my team hasn't scored. I need to give them 5, 6, 10 more minutes to try to help them out. But it's just dumb. The concept is dumb. You don't have to do math as you're going through the game to figure out when it's actually going to be over or when it's actually going to be halftime if you would just stop the clock. Which leads me into the next one. Number 3, fix the clock. Okay. First of all, you've got to learn how to stop it, but then you've got to fix it. And this is one of the biggest frustrations I have with the sport. For those of you that don't know, instead of the clock counting down, so you've got a half, which is 45. It's never 45, but it's supposed to be 45 minutes, right? It's never 45 because they add time on to the end. Always. They call that stoppage. Well, if you started at 45 minutes and counted down and reset the clock for each half, by the way, they keep it going up to the 90-minute mark and be well beyond. And so that creates additional confusion, especially towards the end of the game, because who knows, we're almost 90 minutes. Does that include the 10 that they tacked onto the first half? No, nobody seems to know. Nobody seems to know really how this works. I mean, there's people who say they know how it's supposed to work, but it never seems to work out this way. So take the clock and flip it, do it the right way, count down from 45 minutes per half, and you won't have some of this insanity of forcing people to do math in their heads if they want to know how much time is left, if they need to go to the bathroom or whatever, or if they're planning to make a run for the snack bar or something. Okay. That is the dumbest thing I have to say I have ever seen in any sport. Nobody else does that I'm aware of that's sane anyway. Okay. Fix the clock. Count down, not up. Don't force fans to do math in their heads. It makes no sense whatsoever. That way you always know how much time is left. And if you stop the clock, this is a big one for me if you can't tell. And if you stop the clock when play stops, then you don't have to add more time onto the end. I mean, counting up and adding time, that kind of in some crazy town situation might make sense. But if you do it the right way, which is my way, by the way, then you won't have that confusion. Players don't even seem to know when it's game's going to be over. Nobody does. It's bizarre. And then what's even more bizarre about that with this counting up and then adding the stoppage time is that you'll get to the 45-minute mark or the 90-minute mark, and the clock will keep going. And then they tell you how much time they're adding. So they've already added several seconds by the time it's announced. Fix all the clock stuff. Just take the clock, the whole concept of time, and start over. Okay? But that was only number 3. Number 2, make fandom more accessible. What do I mean? Okay, well, the US is hosting, or one of the co-hosts, and I have cable. I use YouTube TV. And it seems like anytime I want to watch one of the matches, either at least this time around, Fox or FS1 has it, and I have both of those channels. So I'm not inconvenienced by anything here, but I've got friends in other countries who are actually more into soccer than the US is, right? I mean, we're talking Latin American countries, right? It is the sport for Latin American countries. Some of them may be baseball, but they can't watch all the games. They're pay-per-view. Pay-per-view. I mean, we have that for like UFC fights that I don't care about anyway, but you've got to go to a restaurant or pay extra to your cable company in these countries where soccer is the number one sport, and you're making them pay extra just to watch? What is that? You've got to work out something with the networks or the governments of these countries, because look, a lot of these countries, some of these fans, I mean, one of the appeals of soccer is that the only thing you really need to play is a ball and a patch of dirt, right? Some of these countries can't afford this. This is ridiculous. The majority of your fan base are in countries that are having to pay extra to watch. Why? Why would you do that to them? Do you not want them as your fans? I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. And that offends me personally. You know, I'm having to give play-by-play to one of my buddies because, you know, it's a work night and he can't, you know, go to a restaurant for dinner with his family because they've got to be up early the next day. I mean, come on. That's garbage. That is garbage. Still, me personally, fix the clock. All right. Number 1. The number one thing wrong with soccer, the number one way that you can fix this entire sport. Are you ready for this? Number 1. Here we go. Drum roll. Something. I'm not doing sound effects on this. Fire Raphael Klaus. Mic drop. Don't know who Raphael Klaus is? Yeah, well, he's a referee, and he's terrible. He is an abomination to the sport. Fire Raphael Klaus. Why? You're probably asking yourself, well, if you don't know, there's something wrong with you. By now, everybody on the planet should know, and everybody on the planet knows that he's terrible. Okay, so, and this is not me being a bad sport, by the way. US was playing. I don't even remember who we played, but we beat them. We won. Okay. Now, there's this thing in soccer called a yellow card, and there's this thing in soccer called a red card. And there are reasons people get these things. Sometimes you commit a foul or whatever, and it results in, a turnover, or it may result in a special kick. And if it's, you know, potentially endangering the other person, I mean, because yeah, you're wearing cleats, you step on his toe, his foot, his ankle, whatever, you would get a yellow card for that. Now, if it's intentional, if it's egregious, if it's one of those situations where it's seriously, injury causing, or things like that, that's when you're supposed to get a red card. And the whole red card concept is a bit bizarre too, by the way, because what happens is the player's ejected, which that makes sense for a red card, but the team who he plays for can't put in another player. So then they have to play the rest of the time down a person if someone gets a red card. Then on top of that, the guy is suspended from the next game. So it's a very, very harsh penalty. And with the harshness of the penalty, I would suspect a referee would be very hesitant to pull a red card, because you can completely screw up a team's ability to win. I mean, I get penalizing the guy, right? Boot him from the game. I'm not even arguing the suspension for the next game, but making the team play a man down when it was one guy that did it, that seems a bit excessive. But okay, if you're going to be that extreme with this penalty, you don't want guys running out there, stomping on somebody's head. But if you're going to be that extreme with the penalty, use it sparingly. Use it only when appropriate. Well, in this match yesterday, one of the U.S. players committed, admittedly, a yellow card penalty. Now, granted, this was after the referee looked the other way on several other yellow card penalties committed against the U.S., where guys were pulling our guys down by their jerseys, holding them back by their jerseys. In one instance, a guy ran over to our goalie who was trying to get up off the ground and shoved him back down into the ground, causing him to hit his head on the ground. Seems to me that could have been a potential red card right there. But no, initially, Mr. Klaus did not bother even calling a penalty, was called over for the video review, and rather than giving him the appropriate yellow card, which would have been similar to what happened to Lionel Messi, the famous Argentina player, who seems like a great guy, this isn't about him, very similar situation to what he, I believe, was yellow carded for in a different match, comes back, doesn't start with the yellow card. It didn't start there and then a review and then get upgraded to a red card. He goes straight to the red card, kicking the guy out of the game, causing the U.S. to play the rest of the game with 10 men instead of 11, and keeping him from the next round. Video review, this isn't me, okay? This isn't me. This is every announcer, every commentator, everybody that knows anything about the sport knows that this was a horrific injustice. And there's no appeal process because they now have the video review. I guess there was an appeal process prior to that. But clearly, if the video review is being conducted by the jerkface that made the call, right? Who's he accountable to? Apparently no one. Apparently he just gets to screw us over. So that's the biggest problem with this sport today. It wasn't until yesterday. And look, guys, this is just the top 10. There's a lot wrong with this sport. I will say there are some things very much right with it. The fans, the fans are pretty awesome. I mean, Canada were jerks, very unsportsmanlike in the opening ceremonies when they booed as the American flag came out. They're one of the co-hosts. Incredibly inappropriate. Keep your politics out of it, which the players seem to do. And the players have been, for the most part, outstanding. I mean, yes, things get heated and they've gotten each other's faces, but they're also helping each other up quite a bit, and giving each other hugs on the opposite teams and fist bumps and things like that. I've been really impressed with the players. But the fans, for the most part, are fantastic. They're crazy. One of the things on my original list was, asking why they don't have cheerleaders or mascots or something. You don't need them. The fans are that entertaining. The Mexico fans, I want to give you guys a shout out because y'all are some serious jerks, and it's hysterical. The Mexico fans boo their own team. Of course, they boo everybody. They cheer their team as well, but if they're not happy with something, they let their team know about it, and they yell some profanities, which, according to my friend, has got cost them matches before. That they yell at the goalie, which I just think it's hysterical. But the fans are, for the most part, just fantastic and so much fun to watch, and the way they dress up, and just it's everybody. They go nuts. But I will say this: there's something to be said for these teams that are really, even in the travesty that happened to the U.S. team yesterday. The team came together. They were respectful. They were professional. They, obviously didn't agree. Neither did our coach, who, by the way, is amazing. Argentinian guy, very cool. I got to see a little piece on him. Um, but they kept playing and scored their second goal, a man down, by the way, to win it. So a lot of love and respect for them. They even gathered in a circle after the game to pray, which I thought was super, super cool. But generally speaking, I've been enjoying the matches, even the boring parts, falling asleep, dozing off here and there. I've picked my teams. I've been rooting for. Some of them are still in it, which is exciting. Of course, I'm rooting for Team USA, but I'm also rooting for Ghana and Colombia and several others. Argentina, just because Messi is the only soccer player that I'm familiar with at all. I mean, as in I've seen him in commercials and know his name. So I'm rooting for them. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. I truly believe that the host nations have done an amazing job, and I'm not just patting the U.S. on our backs or anything like that, but I love all the Europeans coming over and finding out that everything they believed about the U.S. was wrong, and that this is actually a great country. That's been cool seeing all their posts online, and videos that they've been putting up, and things like that. So, and the fans have just been fantastic. I was sad that Scotland had to go home because they were fantastic. The fans were just amazing. But and I love, the Viking row and some of the things. Man, it's just, that's been probably the best part. And then, the 5 to 10 minutes per game where there's actually something exciting happen. I'm not saying I'm becoming a fan. I'm saying that FIFA, if you fix the sport, then yeah, I could be there. I think we even have a team here in Houston. I'm not sure. I don't know if they're any good, but I believe we do. I could see it happening. But yeah, when I found that we were hosting here in Houston some of the matches, I was even like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go. And then, the cheapest seats I think were like $1,700. I think for some matches they were as low as 700. I mean, we're talking the nosebleed seats, and that goes back to making fandom more accessible. I understand that this is your Olympics, basically. It happens once every 4 years, but the ticket prices were ridiculous, and just the fact that, it's pay-per-view in many of the nations where the majority of your fans reside. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have for this. I hope you're watching. I hope you're rooting for Team USA or whoever. Like I said, I picked a bunch of teams up front. Unfortunately, most of them didn't make it because I like to root for underdogs. But Ghana's still in it. I'm excited about them, and a couple of others that I'm really hoping. I'm hoping to see Mexico in us play Mexico. I think France, if they make it and we make it, I think France will beat us, even though I'm not rooting for France. And then I'm banking on Argentina beating them. So Argentina getting first, France getting second. And sorry, Mexico, I love you, but I'm hoping we beat you and get third. So that's what I think is going to happen. My brackets are not looking great so far, so yeah, take it for what it's worth. But anyway, fix soccer. Call me, FIFA, if you want some help.